So there are different ways you can create a user as we had discussed. So you're going to be creating a user now. Let's add a user. You can just type in here Mike. I know we have a Mike, so we're going to have another Mike, Joseph. And we have Mike Joseph here. So in this email, you need to provide something unique. Let's say I go with Alex. No, let's not go with Alex. Let's just do this, something unique. Mike. It checks to see if there's a Mike and there isn't a Mike. Let's go with something like Prudence. So it says there is a user with this email address already, but you might need to stick to a convention. If you're going with Mike Joseph, this is available, but you might need to stick to a convention. So the convention we already have here is the user's name and the first letter of their surname. So this is what we can do. Hit next. It brings you to a point where you need to choose if you'd like to assign a license or not. You can click here to assign a license. We have 9 of 15 licenses available. So this means we have used up 11 licenses. So if I uncheck this, it goes back to 10. I check this, it stays on 9. So you can click over here to see all of the apps and services that comes with that license. You can choose to uncheck some of the licenses from here. If you don't want them to have a service or an application, you can just choose to uncheck it from here. So there's a Copilot. You can choose to uncheck, but I'm not going to do that. You can choose to uncheck Avatar for Teams, but I'm not going to do that. And that's a feature we're going to discuss later on. So all of these are the services and applications that come with your Microsoft 365 E5 subscription. And the developer tenant or the developer license has this as well. All right, I'll just click next. And over here, you need to pick a role. So if you choose to give this user an admin role, you can pick one of the roles from here. So the highest role is the global admin. This is arranged in alphabetical order. That's why Exchange is at the top. So if someone has this role, that person will be able to perform the task everyone else will be able to perform. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck this, and if he has the Exchange role, to know more about this, you can just hover your pointer over here, and it says full access to Exchange Online. So Exchange Online is another service of Microsoft 365 that we are going to be discussing. Alright, so the global admin, this person has unlimited access to every single thing on your tenant. So you want to be careful who you give this to. So global reader, this person can view all administrative features and settings in all admin centers. So if you look carefully, it says view. Okay, I think that was small. So if you look carefully, it says can view all admin features and settings. So everything that admin does, this person can view them, but this person can't change them. Help desk. So see what it says, reset passwords and re-authenticate for all non-admins. So this person can perform tasks on non-admins, but not on admins. Service support administrator, create service requests for Azure, Microsoft 365 and Microsoft 365 services, and monitors service health. So we're going to talk about service health later on. Service health helps you to know what's working fine and what's not working fine on Microsoft 365. SharePoint admin, this person has access to SharePoint. Teams admin, this person only has access to Teams. And Skype. So Skype and Teams, I would hope that Skype will be deprecated and Teams will be what will be used in the nearest future. But we'll just wait and see what happens. So user admin, this person can do anything on users, but not on admins. So this user can change passwords, create and manage users, groups, and all of that. That's what this person can do. Okay, so want to know more about all of this, you can click here, or you can just go to Copilot and ask Copilot to explain what those are. So these are categories as well. You can choose which of these categories you want to assign. Like I said, you can just check here to see what all of these do. You can also go to the Microsoft documentation. I'm going to provide the link in the description below. You can also add a title for this user. What title would you like to add? Support engineer. And what department? IT. Office, HQ, which is headquarters. Phone number, you can provide that. Fax, mobile number, street address, and all of this. Country, you can change this. Actually, I'll keep this at Nigeria. And that's that. I'll just hit next. Okay, it says we did not provide a role. Let's go back and see. Yeah, we clicked on this but did not provide the role. So I'll just create this user without the role, or I can give this user the Exchange admin role. So just go next. hit finish. Okay, if you see here, this user has been created. You can just send this down to the user. If we come down here, we are given the option to save this user settings as a template. So remember the last time I said you can create a user from a template. We are going to do that right now. So I can just say exchange user. I like to keep it this way. That way I know it's just something and not just a row I created. You can add a description here for exchange users, and you can save this. All right, so templates have been saved. You can close this point. If we check, we should have a mic. Yes, we do have a Mike Joseph. And he has a role of exchange admin. Okay, we're going to have a look at all of this shortly. So let's say I need to create another user. I can first of all uncheck this. So if something isn't working right, take your time to check. And then we didn't get all of these options because I was on mic, so the option changes when you're on someone else. Uncheck this, and we need to use add a user from template. So this is the template we created. If I click on this to add a user, I can create a Steve Jobs, and we have a Steve there. You can just type in Steve J. Remember, that's the convention we use. Try to stick to one convention. So if you're only using their first name, you can do that. If you're not using their first name alone, you can do that as well. So the moment you provide all of this email address may be used. Let's say Mike Joseph. So it doesn't tell you if it is used or not, but we are sure this email address is used. So the only way to do that is click outside, and it checks, and it tells you someone else is using that email address. Well, we are creating an account for Steve, so I'm just creating Steve J. So I'll need you to pay attention to some of this little detail, because those are some things you would be doing when you are on the job. All right, so you see here the add new button is live. You can just click add. You can review all of this. These are some of the settings we had for that user. So I'm adding this. All right, so we have this, and we can send that to the user and have them sign it. Okay, so because this user has the Exchange admin access, he'll be able to access the Exchange admin side. Now that's one way of adding users. We've looked at this section, adding users from here, and there's a shortcut key for this, Shift AU, and it adds a new user. So that's a shortcut key, but we're not using that anytime soon. So yeah, so we added a user via templates. So let's add multiple users, and you can add row, subtract row. We're just going to be adding 2 users here, Joanne Jacob, don't know who that is, Joanne J, and Cynthia Caleb, and Cynthia C. All right, so these are the 2 users we'll be adding, and we'll go next. If you want to add a license to this user, go ahead. If you don't want to, I will not be adding a license to this user for now. If I try this, we're going to have an error. Actually, the button is grayed out, so you need to specify don't assign a license, not recommended. So I know it's not recommended, but I'm going to tell you reasons why you may need to create a user. One reason is you may need to have a global admin account that does not have any license or does not have access to any email. If I were a hacker, the first thing I want to do would be to hack any known email address. So if you are a global admin, I recommend you have a global admin account that is not tied to any license, but you have access to the tenant. You don't need to have a license for you to have access to the tenant, because all you're doing is just securing yourself. So I'll leave this person within South Africa. South Africa. South is South Africa. And then I can create this user, and we have 2 users. Hit add. All right, so we have 2 users created. You can show the password here to see all of these passwords. Now, all of these users I've created, I may have to delete them because of course you've seen the passwords, and that's not recommended. So I'm doing this for the purpose of this class. I will be removing these users, or I'll be changing these passwords just after now. So please, whatever you do, secure your passwords. It's not recommended to have your password lying around. Okay, so if I want to see more information about this user, I can click on this user and it comes up. But no, we're just going to leave this be for now and click close. So we've seen how to create a user, a single user, a user from a template, create multiple users from the wizard on the browser. How about this? So download, this is it's going to give you a template where you can add users, and here are some warnings. If you violate any of these, your user would not be created. So I recommend you use this because it's quite faster and easier. But if you want to use this, you can download a blank CSV file with the required headers. But I recommend you go with this because it gives you an example of what you need. So I'm just going to download that, open, and this is an example. This is an example of what you need to create, of what you need to be able to create that user. So step 1, you need to provide a username, and I'll just go. All right, I also recommend this step. You need to stick to conventions. That's why I'm coming down here. So Alex W, if you remember this user, we had deleted this user some time ago. So I'm just going to be needing the way the email address is structured. So this is WIG6J. This is your .onmicrosoft.com domain. So this is something that is provided when you create a tenant. So Microsoft gives you this domain name because you need something to hold your licenses and all of those information. So you cannot delete this domain name. So let's go back to Excel workbook, and I am going to modify this. Actually, I'll just leave the name the way it is. Let's see, I'll paste this. The name is Chris Green, so that will be Chris, capital G. Okay, so this is fine. And there is an error here. If you notice, it has added a link, so we need to remove that link, because if we send that in there, it changes it from an email address, and it added something like a mail to. This is what was added to the link, so we don't need this. It's going to definitely give us an error. So I am going to modify that, and then Chris Green, we'll just leave that name as it is, IT manager, information technology. Ours was IT. I'll leave this information. They are all dummy data, and I'm going to leave them there. Alternate email address, yeah, I can leave that way, and I'll just save this. Add multiple users. Click on this section, scroll down. So you need to go to where that file may have been saved. I'm sure mine is in the download folder, and open. So you could add more than just one name. I only added one name because of course I don't have many other names to add. If you have multiple names, you could add them there. So it says here you can upload up to 249 users per CSV file. So this file can carry up to 249. I recommend you leave this in increments of 100 each, but you could take up to 249. Yeah, so avoid all of these things. Just take note of all of this while you're at this. Go next. Do you want to have a license for these users? No, so I'm just going to create this. Actually, let's do that. Let's have a license for this user because it's just one user. Go next. Add users. So it said add users because it doesn't make any sense to add just one user using a CSV file. You usually would use this method when you have so many users to add. So if you have multiple users, as I had said, try to break them down into batches, a batch of 100 each. So all of the users would have been listed here, their email address and the password. To see the password, click on show and you see the password. You can copy that, send it to the user, and that's that. So I'm going to close this just to be sure we have the user. The user's name was Chris Green, and this is Chris Green. That's the user we have. All right, so we are done with adding users. We are going to work on this, but not just yet. We'll come back to this later in the course. Okay, so we're just discussing the user side of things in this lengthy video, and there are a lot of things that you can do from there. And if you wish to change back to the light mode, you can click here, enable the light mode. You can click here to go back to the dark mode. All right. Now let's have a look at these users. Let's see some other information we can get. If you click on this user, something pops up, and over here you can reset the user's password quite easily. You can block them from signing in. If you click on this, what it does is to block this user and they will not be able to sign in. So click on this, ask you to be sure, and this user will be blocked from signing in. So if I try to sign in as that user, I will not be able to. So I'll just open up a new tab, incognito mode, office.com, and then I'll copy this user's email address. I don't have a password, so I'll just reset and go next. So sign in here, what I did was Alt and Tab, and it brings you to the other page. So I'll paste the email address here, go to the other tab, copy this password, go back, paste, sign in. All right, so it says your account has been locked. Contact your support person to unlock it, then try again. All right, so this is the thing. You might have users at some point as saying to you that the account has been locked. All you need to do is read the error message. Many times you get pointers from the error message that you receive, and many of these pointers sometimes help you to solve your issue completely. This error message says the account was locked and this user needs to contact admin in order to unlock the account. I'll just come back here and try to unlock this user's account. All right, let's try and see if this user has been unlocked. All right, so this user has been unlocked, and we just go in there and this user can now sign in. So because this user also has a license, the user gets all of these apps. All right, let's move on from there. Okay, so if you want to change this user's username, you can do that from here. Click on manage username, and this is a username. You can add an alias. An alias is an alternate email address you can use to contact the same primary mailbox. So you could have multiple email addresses here, multiple aliases, and those aliases can, whenever emails are sent to them, you still receive them in your primary mailbox. So the alias, what you can do with an alias is, let's say you are to register on a site and it requires that you register with an email address, and then you constantly get emails, you're being bugged every now and then with emails. Once you delete that alias, it's gone. Now, having this alias doesn't mean you get a separate mailbox. No, when emails are sent to this alias, you still receive them here in the primary mailbox. This is a primary mailbox and this is an alias. You can have a bunch of aliases here, and then whenever you send an email to any of these aliases, they still come into this mailbox. So let's say you register on a site and marketers get that email address and they constantly send you emails. Instead of creating rules or constantly deleting those emails, you could just provide an alias to such site, and then when you're tired of, or when you're done with what took you to that site in the first place, you can delete that alias. So you can just create aliases for several reasons. You would need to decide on what reasons you need to create aliases for. Something else could be when we have our own custom domain name. We are going to see a classic example. Assuming everyone knew you as Adel Vance, and then let's say you had a change of name or something, you can add that alias of Evan Steve, whereas you have changed your own name and the email address you use. Because you wouldn't want to lose emails, you could add primary name, which is Adel V, and have an alias of Adel S or Adel Steve or something, and that way you won't lose emails because they'll still be received inside of your inbox. Another example could be that your organization choose to change the convention or the way they provide usernames. So let's say at this point there are Adel V, which is Adel, the first name, and then the surname, which is V. At this point, the organization thinks we need to have the full first name and last name in our email addresses, and we don't want users to miss emails. We want them to still receive emails as usual. What you do is to move the primary mailbox to an alias and then change the alias to something. Let me give you a classic example so you understand. Now what we have here is Adel V, and what we have here is Vance A, which is her surname and then the initial of her first name. Over here is her first name, then the initial of her surname. Let's assume your organization says we now need to have user's full name. We don't want to have just initials anymore. We want it to be the full Adele V. What you do is come over here and edit. Now, I'm just going to add Vance here. Okay, take note of what happens here, because this process sometimes happens automatically, but if it doesn't, you can always add it. But in many cases, in my experience, it always happens automatically. So this is Adele Vance, and what we had there initially was Adele V, just the initial. So if I hit add, it creates Adele Vance as the primary mailbox and then moves Adele V to the alias. Now this is like a safety net, that way you won't lose any email. None of your emails will be lost when users try to contact you. If I remove this email address from here, delete it, it is going to be a problem, because at the end of the day I will never receive emails. Because if I have, let's say, 1,000 clients or 10,000 clients that already have this email address, emailing them to say I've changed my email address to this may not be the right way to go about things. What you need to do is, when emails come in here, whenever you reply them, it's going to be replied as this, and then they may have to notice it themselves, and with time, when they try to send you an email, they might just subconsciously go to type this. So aliases are very important. Let's say I want to add AV, because Adele and Vance are her names. So let's say AV, Adele Vance, and I add this. I could still receive emails as this, and they will be sent to the inbox. The list can go on and on and on. Let's have VA. The list can go on and on and on and on. I think you can have up to 400 aliases for one mailbox, but please be careful. You don't want to have too many aliases, but you're allowed to have up to 400. Like I said, let's say there's a shopping website I need to register on just to purchase something once, and I am 100% sure I'll only be using that email address once. You don't need to go on creating so many email addresses. What you do is Adele, and then you can just do the name of the shop, and this is an email address you can provide to the website, because you're only going to be working once and you don't want to get too many emails from them, all those marketing emails. You can just provide this email address. When you're done with what you needed to do on that website, just come over here, click and delete, and it's gone. So these are some basic ways that aliases can be used, and this is actually how they have been managed. Let's assume you still want to have Adele V as your primary mailbox. Come over here to the menu, click on that and change to primary mailbox. It's been brought up here, and then Adele Vance that we had initially created is brought down here. So none of this has taken effect yet. If I cancel this, we haven't done anything. So if I click save changes, then everything gets saved. All right, so I'm just going to click on save changes. Okay, and everything's saved without any error messages. So if you come over here to this, user, you're going to find that she now has some aliases here, and it says one more. So 3 listed, and then there's one more. So to see that, you can just click on this and you see that. So why we came here was to try and manage the username, and to manage a username, you just click on here and change it. It will bring the question of what happens to my emails when I change this. So I needed to explain aliases, the concept of aliases in the process. Okay, so you can try to see this user's sign-in logs for the last 30 days. You can click on this. Okay, so if you want to sign this user out of every session, I'll just click on this, and then let's go back here and refresh this page. Okay, still signed in, and the notification here says that sign this user out of all sessions. We have initiated the sign out of all sessions. It will take some time to sign this user out, to sign out the user from all sessions on all devices. Okay, let's open up an app and see if we are asked. All right, so this user has been signed out. This is just the cache stored on the machine. So if you try to carry out any task, it will ask for a password. because you are signed out already. All right, so we'll go back here. We are still looking at everything. So this user belongs to a few groups. Manage groups. We're going to talk about groups later on, but not here. And the role for this user, the user doesn't have any admin roles. So this user's manager is Miriam Graham. We can modify this as well, but not just yet. The display name is this. If you want to change that, you can go to manage contact information. And the display name can be changed from here, as well as so many other information. Over here we have view Microsoft 365 activation. So what this does is to show you everywhere Adele has downloaded and used applications, but she hasn't done that, or if she has signed in on a device or something. Nothing appears here. You can send an invitation asking her to download those. Okay, so multi-factor authentication is something we are going to discuss later in the course. I will just move on to devices. So Adele doesn't have any devices enrolled in Intune. So we're going to deal with Intune managed devices or endpoint manager sometime in the lesson. Licenses and apps, we had looked at this. If you have this license, you get a list of these 70 services or licenses and applications, and that's what this point is showing you. If you have an email box, you will get this. So you need a mailbox in order to see anything from here. So this says you have somewhere around 53.49 kilobytes of data, which is of emails in your mailbox. So if you have delegate permissions, you're going to see them here. We're going to discuss this when we talk about Exchange. And if this user should be seen on the global address list, you can do that setting from here. So we have discussed what the global address list is. This is where you can decide if you want a user to appear or not appear on a global address list. And again, this takes some time. We take up to an hour to populate. So email forwarding is a service that helps you to forward emails sent down to this user to someone else. We're going to work on all of this with time. And auto replies, when you are out of the office or you're on holiday or something else, you're unavailable, you can set up auto replies to send emails directly to users. Okay, so when we talk about shared mailbox, we'll talk more about this, how to convert a mailbox to a shared mailbox. So everything here would be discussed during the session for Exchange. OneDrive. So when you purchase a Microsoft 365 service, in many cases you get OneDrive storage. This is 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage. So when we discuss OneDrive, we are going to discuss all of this. Okay, so that's that for the users, active users side, the contact and delete users section. So we're going to be discussing many of these with time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.